Don, welcome to the program.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad that we finally connected because you have been like I've noticed you commenting for a while, and every time I start to every time I see it, I'm like, this guy is making a lot of sense. How have I not talked to him before? And then I proceed to forget because someone else says something really retarded, and I'm like, oh, I gotta respond.
See,
And
that right there, that is the story of the internet. And I am not kidding at all. I can't imagine how many people I have danced around on the internet. We've all been in the same space doing the same things for like months, maybe years. It's like, oh, dude, I should totally talk to that guy. That guy's an idiot, though.
I know, right? And so it's like, I'm glad I'm not the only one who feels this way. But but yeah, like the recently, like you and I were both on Twitter, like busting lawberts for just a whole bunch of just strategy bullshit where they are just like living in la liberal land. And you obviously you're a GOP guy like me, and it's like you understand, like, hey, your flag is upside down because we're in distress and we didn't have power to stop the crisis. Am I right?
You got it, 100%.
And so like you and I are are the sort of type that we're going to be having that discussion from the from that perspective of, hey, we need power. This is not time to be shading around in theory land. And the and I thought, like, first off, maybe you understand, like, how did you get to like that mindset? Because a lot of like libertarians, like, they have not gotten there to this idea that we actually do need a lot of power, and the GOP is the only one even kind of offering it to us right now. They're not doing a great job, but it's like they're the only one on the table. So it's like, where else are we going to go?
Well, you either decide at some point in your life that you want to be right on the internet, or you want to get stuff done, right? Like, and that's basically what it comes down to. So I was sitting around one day, and I'd been running this channel for a long time, and I was like,
is it
I'm wrong about
if I ask you how long? Can I ask you that or no?
5 years now, I think I've been going.
Oh, wow.
No
wonder you have a huge following.
Yeah. I don't know, huge, but I don't know. I was about 2 years in. I was like, okay, so I was doing much more news reporting stuff, and I get called a conspiracy theorist a lot, and everybody all of a sudden has decided that the difference between conspiracy theory and news is 6 months, and I'm like, motherfucker, it's like 3 years. What are you talking about? And, my really old subscribers will happily tell you all about it forever. But I was sitting there one day and I was like, nothing actually gets done ever. We don't, wins are only wins, right? No one takes a little win and builds on it. And if you've ever played any strategy game in your life, from chess to whatever the current most popular one is, then you start with some opening move. You build on the opening move. You expand influence. And eventually you win. You don't just go like, pawn forward 2 spaces, checkmate you. And that is what everybody's expecting, right? It's what everybody wants. It's
it's like he should have moved the piece to like D3. That was the most principled answer.
Well, that is the, so I fundamentally call the right everyone to the right of Mao, because I'm not really all that big, right? I don't care that much who we're working with, as long as we're working like the right cardinal direction, then good. And
that's
so
kind of close to how I define the left to be, or I define communism to be anything to the left of Joe Manchin.
Right. Same premise.
Yeah, exactly.
And those are the people you can't work with, and everybody else you can do something with. It's not going to be great. It's not going to be amazing. But all of those people, their favorite pastime is to sit there and be like, wrong pawn, bro. Like, can we do anything ever of any variety that might at least be the direction of a win? Would that be okay? Yeah.
Is that even the most principled pawn to have taken? And should it have been the white pawn or the black pawn? It's like, well, I don't control the other team, so I can't control that. And and it's like that just doesn't compute to them for whatever reason. And I've never understood this mindset. As like you said, as a kid who really enjoyed strategy games as a kid, this idea that we're going to have principles handcuffing us, to me it's like, what? No, it's like principles at best are like guidelines. I always think of like that line from Pirates of the Caribbean where he's like, when he's talking about the pirate code, it's more like guidelines.
Yes, and parlay this, would you?
Exactly. And it's like that. So when I'm hearing these people say like, oh well, that's not principle or that's not a libertarian answer, I'm like, it's like I do not believe this. We can be, if your ideology is handcuffing you, you're doing something wrong. It's like, if your idea of libertarianism based on the word liberty doesn't liberate you, you're doing something wrong.
You're probably failing somewhere or another.
Yeah, you messed up somewhere.
The best example of this that I've seen lately with specifically Liberty Twitter is so bad about this is DeSantis, who is out there like, no, I don't care what you think. You're not doing vaccine mandates. No, you're not just firing people at random, blah, blah, blah. And all of these people came out of the woodwork to be like, well, if companies just want to fire their employees, they should be able to. Yes, look, in some vacuum somewhere in the middle of nowhere that doesn't exist on planet Earth, if Walmart comes out and goes, you know what, part of your employment contract now is that we get to rape you on Fridays. And if you don't like that, you have to quit. Well, first of all, if I work at Walmart, I'm quitting, right? Make no mistake. Like 2 weeks notice, try 2 seconds notice. Peace, right? But on the other hand, the federal government is not coming down to Walmart in this vacuum and going, hey, you have to rape people on Fridays. That's not happening. And it is here. And this premise that like, oh, well, they just decided. They didn't just decide, right? And the capability to fight back against any of this ridiculous crap is exactly what we should be fighting for. Anywhere, ever, at any time. Like, oh, man, the federal government or, the federal government and the state of Texas are arguing about stuff, but they're both the states, so they're both wrong. They're both statists. Like, Texas is arguing you should be able to make your own silencers and just leave them in the state because screw the feds. Maybe we should give Texas a break for a minute. Be like, you know what? You're kind of doing the thing I want you to.
I mean, they're doing great on abortion. They just like allowed like bounty hunters for like 10,000 a pop. It's like these guys are doing great.
You would think, right? But then you get into this autistic argument of is that the perfect solution? And dear all of Liberty Twitter everywhere, let me just sum up all of your problems in one of the oldest phrases in human history. Do not let the perfect be the enemy of the good, right? Because that's all you do. In fact, 5 minutes before we started this stream was yet another libertarian angrily talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene for putting a thread on Twitter that said, hey, maybe we should work with libertarians. Like, maybe we should learn. Right? Maybe we should learn.
Republican. Why won't they listen to us?
Exactly. And so she, I said, look, she was reaching out to you. She's extending the olive branch. She's saying we should work together. And whoever this was goes, no one is saying that. And I went, that thread that you're talking about, where Marjorie Taylor Greene is showing you how scared she is, it's her saying work with libertarians. To which the answer was, but her reasoning was bad. And I was like, who gives a shit?
Oh my God. It's like, this is something I've never understood. Like, when they come out like and say, oh, well, the right is all a bunch of warmongers right now. And the only reason they're opposing it right now is simply because they got burned by the neocons. I'm like, I'll take it. It's like, yes, I will take it. It's like, good enough. If it gets me from point A to point B, I'm not picky about how I get there.
Well, this is the kind of thing that makes me wonder how they deal with like tow truck drivers, right? Like you blow a tire on the side of the road and you're like, ah, shit, my spare's flat. I guess I got to call a tow truck driver. When he gets there, you're like, all right, so this is your 64 questionnaire about your political beliefs. Because if you don't answer all 64 questions right, you can't change my tire.
Exactly. I know. It's like, and it's just that disconnect right there to where, like, if they were in real life and they were in a real, like, sort of, crisis right there, they would not give two shits.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like it's only because, that they're in a laid back armchair position on Twitter that they get this. And for whatever reason, this somehow masquerades as like to borrow a phrase from the Pete Quinones and Aaron from Timeline Earth, this is like the power process. For whatever reason, Liberty Twitter has managed to make itself into the power process to where people they feel content simply arguing about these things rather than actually doing them. And the people who end up saying, oh, that's not enough, I don't, I want to actually engaged in the power process are all of like the worst humans.
Yeah.
Like invariably they're all they're like overwhelmingly bad. And
that's an incentive structure, right? Well, it's an incentive structure, right? And you think libertarians, all of us who have any idea, have ever been down the giant economics rabbit holes, etc., would get this, right? Because how many years has the internet as a whole sat around discussing economics? Sol wrote a whole book on political economics and why the incentives are so terrible and why everyone runs around saying, oh, politics only rewards sociopaths, right? Which is, let's be generous and say shorthand, but the incentive is not necessarily to do liberty related things, right? There's no crisis that liberty solves other than tyranny, right? And we've turned tyranny into a joke, so no one's running around going, tyranny. Now, funny enough, I think COVID is removing the joke, or at least the government response to it, right? Because people who were like, oh, lol, you think it's tyranny that you can't own a machine gun? Yes, I do.
Yes.
Good talk. Next. But 6 months ago, those people were like, lol, idiot, right? And now it's, maybe the government is kind of like a little bit past what overreach is. Maybe we've gone a little bit too far. And the same time that's happening, right, where Liberty Twitter legitimately could be gaining some ground, capitalizing on all of this horrible shit that is going on. The flip side of that is the cost on Twitter to take the most pure position is zero, right? There is no cost. Worst case scenario is you, me, 50 other people come by and go, look, bro, you're losing. You don't have to like that, but you are indeed losing. You objectively, by any measurement. No, man. Shane Hazel has more followers on Twitter, which basically was said to me today. I like Shane,
Jesus.
but basically was said to me today, right? That's not a benefit, right? But the flip side is the benefit is those people that you see in the liberty movement are like, yeah, man, I'm totally motivated. Let's ride. And they're retweeting you and being like, oh, mic drop based. Oh, yeah, awesome, right? Mm-hmm. And so your cost is zero for actually getting in the fight, for being a puerile wiener, and your cost for getting in the fight is pretty high because people are like, oh, no, you shouldn't do that. Same arguments that both of us have had for months and months, maybe years, right? And so the incentives are be more pure, right? Have a 6-hour-long autistic discussion about the nap instead of win an election and go, hey, this state is just no longer accepting federal money. I'm not even sure what that means anymore, but I'm betting we get to roll back so much regulation, you don't even know what it is.
Yeah, right. And by the way, the moment anybody talks about, incentive structures being a real thing, it's like, I know I can reach out to this person. I know I can have a productive conversation with them, because people who avoid, the idea of incentive structures like the plague, they're like extreme, like anti-consequentialists. I'm not going to name names, but we all know who I'm, which Twitter handles I'm talking about when I say extreme anti-consequentialist, that consequences do not matter. And I'm like, yeah, they do. They have to. And this is something that, oh, and by the way, speaking of, incentive structures and ways we could really be, getting real benefit, you mentioned earlier that you're, kind of like you get called, a conspiracy theorist. And I just think back to myself back through history, and like, to a man, the founding fathers were like one after another were conspiracy theorists. And it's like, and the, and so I think, yes, absolutely, go all in on that shit. Why? Because it works, and
it does.
And by the way, it's oftentimes is true. Let's be honest. Alex Jones. The difference between Alex Jones and in like maybe NBC, ABC is, he's like 20 years ahead of them.
Yeah.
In terms of like the actual news. I mean, he's just, the difference. I think he says that, I forget who says it, but the difference between the conspiracy theory and news is like 20 years.
Yeah.
and he's nailed it. And so, and I think this is like the when I'm hearing them say, other libertarians saying, oh, there's no evidence that we're going for genocide or that they're going to put us in like FEMA camps or what. I mean, like, look at Australia, what they're doing it now.
What evidence is required? That's what I want to know. When do we get to say yes? Because let's be honest with ourselves here. Genocide has a meaning, right? And that meaning is not one dead person. It's not 5 dead people. It's not 10 dead people. So are we waiting to be standing on the mountain of bodies and being like, you know what? I guess they're going for genocide.
It's like, and when are you allowed to like defend yourself? When are you allowed to start using force to like start taking power from them and start actually using it against them to take more of their power? Like it's like, do you have to like wait till they have like the SWAT team at your front door? It's like the way I listen to a lot of these people, like I would think they would say yes. It's
so,
like
this is a thing that I've been talking about for years that has pissed me off with libertarians, specifically ANCAPs, right? Is down you live on a nice long road, you're sitting on your front porch, the end of the street rolls up a SWAT van, they kick in the door, they pull people out, and they shoot them in the street, and everybody goes, not my property. And they go to the second house. They kick in the door, they pull everybody out, and they shoot them in the street. And everybody goes, not my property. At what point do you stop these people? And the answer is when they're at the end of your driveway. That is the only time Liberty Twitter specifically was ever willing to agree. They will tell you no. They will tell you that is a straw man. And as soon as you press them on it, like, okay, so they went through the first house. What do you do now? Well, do I know these people? Like, is it my mom or something? Like, no. You live in an average suburban neighborhood. Oh, well, then, it's really not my problem. They're not aggressing against me, bro. They're not violating the NAP. Okay. So when do you? And right about the time where the only answer you've left them is the end of your driveway, they block you.
I mean, and it's like, if you are like, something like that, the correct answer is it should never even come close to that. Like, they should never even get close to the end of your driveway. And that's the correct answer. And the reason is, it's just kind of intuitive that, the best defense is a good offense. You need to go on offense in order to, keep them at bay. You want to have like your SWAT teams being in their driveways, because
no kidding.
And deluding yourself into this idea that it's not going to be that, these guys are all, these guys on the left are all peaceful. And it's like, what in the world, are you looking at that? It's like, we are not, living in the same universe. If you think like, obviously they believe the state is not peaceful, but like doing anything about it is also not peaceful. And they think like the left are like, they're like they're allies in any way and not like apex predators. It's like I view the left a lot like pretty much the same way I would view a tiger or a bear. You're like a
yes.
It's like if you think like, okay, maybe like, oh well, look, they can be productive, and I'm looking at them like, okay, maybe I could like put a harness on a tiger and try to get it to pull my cart,
right.
And plow my field, but that tiger really doesn't want to do that. He's going to like do its best to gnaw its way through that harness. And my ass.
You know what society decided to do with tigers so the rest of the world could see them? We put them in cages and we left them there. We feed them, right? And that's as close as you get. The rest of the time, they're out in the wild and they're dangerous. And if you let them do whatever they want, they'll kill you. And it is a strangely perfect parallel to the left. And it won't be going house to house. It won't be them just going and rooting people out as wrong thinkers. The Red Army, unavailable for comment, right? Because that's literally what they did. Oh, and Johnny, it wasn't real communism. They're not communists. I don't really care. You can call them whatever you want. They all do the same stuff. They follow all the same rules. They have the same behavioral patterns. Mm-hmm. They're taking over the same things in new countries every time. And by the way, they go out of their way to separate large portions of society from the rest of it so that they can do horrible things to that portion of society. None of this is new.
And this is a point Matt Erickson makes really, really well, because he says you don't find communism or you don't find Marxism, just out in the open. It's always a parasite. It always inhabits something else. It always possesses some other ideology, and you can only see it through the pattern in like the footsteps. Like if you're looking at like footsteps on the beach or something like that, you can only see Marxism in the pattern of behavior, and you don't always see it like just out in front. You just it's like very, very rare. And you need to be thinking like, okay, if you like, let's play the time machine game. Like, would you go back and if you had a time machine, would you go back and tell like Tsar Nicholas, put a bullet in Lenin's head?
Lenin's coming.
it's like, would you or would you not like tell him to put a bullet in his head? Like, don't wait, like him, bullet right now.
Right. 1907. Right. You're locking him up. You're leaving him alone in a prison cell because he's just an idiot and none of these people know what they're doing. A decade from now, you're going to regret that decision. Gallows over there, bullet over there. I don't care what you pick. Just pick something.
Yeah. And they just they don't seem to get it through their heads like no, this is inevitable because it's an incentive structure. It's like the commies have figured this out, this incentive structure of power out, and they know what to do with it, and it's only a matter of time. And it's like, if you're not like it's like, that's why like I hear like Pinochet. That's fine. Yeah. It's like if he wants to, have like goon squads or whatever, take the commies down. Yeah, fine. No worries.
Well,
I get it.
Right along the same lines is, to the footsteps in the sand analogy, which Eric, I'm probably going to steal from you. I'm not going to lie. That's good. But right along to the footsteps in the sand analogy is that no one seems to understand how far we are. Right. No one seems to understand how far we've gone down this road. And every now and again, they'll come out and brag about it to you, right? A year or two ago, Time Magazine wrote an article that was the creators of Medicare knew that they were trying to get Medicare for all. And they knew after multiple failed attempts, they couldn't get it in the United States, but they also knew that America likes their elderly. And so they sat down and they said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to teach the whole country that socialized medicine is good by taking care of the elderly. And we'll call it Medicare, right? And here we are, half a century later with Bernie Sanders going Medicare for all, right? They overtly, from the jump, there's notes on it. They said, we're going to start small and we're going to just drive that wedge in and then it's going to split and we're going to get our way, right? And they've been doing this in this country at least since the 20s, right? And you want a good lesson on who you're dealing with? Go read the Fabians, because holy shit, those guys knew what they were doing. Give your enemy respect where it's due, or you're never ever going to beat him. And they knew what they were doing. They were out there writing in 1890. They were writing essays about how the global revolution wasn't going to happen, and what they were going to need to do was teach the proletariat that socialism was good, and it was going to have to never be called socialism. And what you were going to have to do was convince the right to be the ones to promote the socialist idea, because as soon as the right says it's good, then everybody says it's good. And you see them do this every day, right? If Trump did something that was vaguely socialist, AOC's out there the next day.
Well, Donald Trump thought this was a good idea, so it must be a good idea. No one opposes it, right? The right likes it, the left likes it, everybody likes it. I guess we should seize the means of production.
And it's like and to piggyback on that point, is like they're feeling so confident about it when they do that. It's like the what was that? What was the word they used with that Time Magazine article about the election? It's like how they
Fortification.
Fortify the elections. It's like they will come out and like straight up brag to you about about everything they're doing to us because they know they're going to win. And because the reason they know it is because they've got you guys arguing on Twitter, and they're in your little and they know that you are not willing to come after them, so they know for a fact it was only a matter of time. And like if you're not willing to, if they can tell that you're not willing to fight them back. And by the way, this is like that's when they start freaking out, is when the right actually starts shoving back. And what's the first thing they do? It's like call the FBI on the parents who and call them terrorists and stuff like that. And so like they do not hesitate at all to use the the means of power against their against their political opponents. And so when I'm like, we should fight fire with fire. And like if they, and I get called like all sorts of names for that. And it's like, and they will absolutely, the libertarians, like, and this is one thing I said to basically on to Dave and to Scott Horton was, it's like, if you're going to be using the the ideology of libertarianism to defend people who would never do the same for you and are actively doing that, doing like harm to you and to other people, it's like you're doing it wrong. Right. Like, I'm sorry.
Are you the guy in Auschwitz who's like, no, don't hit the prison guard? What are you doing? But the problem is, yes, they are, right. They are like, oh man, we shouldn't initiate aggression against that person. He didn't do anything to us. Tomorrow he's going to be beating you to death, but like, whatever.
It's like, and I make the bar like, okay, if this person, if you were going to get dragged away by a secret police, or if the SWAT team is coming down your street to say shooting one household at a time, are these people going to be on the other side of the street cheering it on, saying, they deserved it, or or are they actually going to come to your aid?
You're like, the south side of the streeters. To hell with you.
Exactly. Yes. And it's like, if you can't, see that, okay, these people are going to cheer it on and they're going to provide moral cover for, for the goon squads coming for you. I like this one, right? Right here, the purity spiral of Liberty Doom.
Yeah.
And it's like if you can't see like the way the writing on the wall, if you can't read the pattern that's coming, it's like, I don't want to, this is what, why I'm almost like, I need to get away from like Liberty Twitter and I need to go over to like MAGA Twitter or something like that, because I was like, I can't have this discussion. And I know I'm winning the discussion on Liberty Twitter, because I see all the ratios I'm getting where like, like the positive ratios, like it's like likes way outnumber, the number of comments whenever I make a really good point or something like that. And but all the lolberts who come out and they just can't get it through their heads. I'm just like, okay, I need new fresh blood. I need to reach out to new people. And I've been looking for like new people to talk to about this, like people who actually understand the threat and they can see it. And so anytime I notice like someone like Don the Pleb, who's like consistently noticing the threat and making the correct observations about it, making the correct prescriptions about it, it's like that, like this is someone I need to get closer to. This is someone I need to talk with more. And but before you respond to that, I want to talk about Paloma Verde CBD. And this is something that I bought, I didn't normally use the salve, but then I had a really good idea for it. Normally I just buy the gummies and they those taste great. I love them. But one thing I do for my health is dry fasting. I will go for extended periods of time. This past time was 48 hours, no food, no water, nothing. And it's extremely healthy for your body, but it's also extremely uncomfortable. And one of the things that I figured out this past time around was let me go ahead and buy some like Salve CBD and some Sports Cream CBD from Paloma Verde CBD ahead of time, because you're not allowed to eat anything, but you can put anything you want on your skin and your body can absorb it. As long as it doesn't enter your GI tract, you will not break the fast. Because if you break the fast, it's going to get way more uncomfortable. And like your body, like your body will turn off a whole bunch of high water intensive processes when you have zero water, but it will turn all of them right back on when you have just a little bit of water, and that dehydrates you faster and makes your symptoms far worse. But what I did that would help me manage those symptoms was I started putting CBD on my skin, and it gets rid of all of the discomfort. And it's like, I swear by this thing now. And so anyone who like follows me and knows that I do dry fasting, as for its health benefits, for longevity benefits, and like this is something I swear by now as part of my routine. I just take some of the salve out, rub it on my forehead, rub it on my temples, get rid of the get rid of any dehydration headaches. I can rub it on my shoulders or my calves to get rid of any like muscle tightness or soreness that I get from the dehydration. And it made the 48 hours of no food, no water pass quite a lot more pleasantly than they would have otherwise. And usually I go for about 24 to 36, but it only starts to get really uncomfortable right around 36. The last 12 hours are brutal, but this past time around, it went so much better because I had this to help manage the symptoms and not break the fast at the same time. And I swear by this stuff now. So if you want to go to, if you ever want to try dry fasting, you can go to, you want to manage the symptoms, like a pro, go to Paloma Verde, CBD.com, and use the promo code popular to get, 25% off your order over $75 and free shipping. And, again, this is the CBD salve. There's also the CBD sports cream that, were really, really helpful to me this past time around. And normally I will buy the gummies too and take more than my fair share right before I go to bed at night. And these things are excellent. So, all right. Now, where were we? We were about to say,
that's a hell of a spot, man.
I know. But I think we were talking about like the Liberty Twitter and me saying I want to go out and meet new people, because they say I've about had my fill of this debate with people who just, they're never going to get it. And I'm done. I don't need this kind of trouble me anymore. I know I'm winning the discussion, but at the same time, it's just like, it's not worth it to me. And I'd rather go actually do work with people, who are going to, actually move the right message forward and actually move action forward. And
move the needle.
I think you have the same thing. I'll say again.
Move the needle, maybe.
Yes, move the needle in the right direction, not the wrong direction.
Indeed. I think your selection bias is good. MAGA is hit or miss.
It's a lot more hits than misses.
I will grant you,
as time goes on.
The angrier they get about what is going on, the better they're getting. The past year has been incredible. A ton of these guys 2 years ago, right? Happy to tell you, oh, it's not communist, you're just a crazy person, the Democrats suck and they're horrible people. And the same people today are out there like, communism is invading America, we need to restart the Cold War, to hell with these people, let's launch them right back to Soviet Russia. And I'm like, where did you come from? I mean, I love you, but where'd you come from?
As and now they're all saying, "Oh yes," and they're all pedophiles too who want to diddle children. It's like, great, yes, thank you.
Yes.
Look in. It's like I don't know. Maybe it's that they're like the left is just bragging, out in the open because they are assured that they're going to win.
Mm-hmm.
How long they've gone without any sort of real opposition, and speaking of like Marjorie Taylor Greene in the comments, like from Joshua Ham. It's like this is exactly what pushback looks like. This is what the MAGA movement really wants. They want every sort of, like, she's the bar now.
Yeah.
It's like, say what you will about her, she's got balls, like
Yeah.
balls.
And
The way. And
who's the other broad that?
Oh, Lauren Boebert. She's also excellent.
Well, disappointing lately because she started down the apology tour line. Right.
Oh yeah, I remember that. She apologized to Muslims, but not to Ilhan Omar.
Right.
So okay, I can understand that a little bit, but it's like that's an unfortunate comparison.
Indeed. But you end up in this, and I certainly hope, because the two of them are big enough to attract attention, right? And Marjorie Taylor Greene has been put quite a few times in the "you need to apologize," to which her answers have at best been "sorry, not sorry, deal with it," right? Yeah. And it needs to start happening, right? And some really smarty political commentators going to be like, "Darn Matt Gaetz," and okay. I'm with you, right? On the other hand, it needs to be getting more prolific. And whether anybody likes this or not, Gaetz is yesterday's news. He is not on every headline anymore, right? And so if you're going to go out and sell this to normies and you say Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's a name they can Google and get that the left hates her in 5 minutes. And they will, right? And all of your normies do exactly that. I had somebody that in the what I call the normie focus group, which is a bunch of my friends that I've had for a bunch of years that I mostly don't talk to about politics, right? I just, hey, well, what beer are you drinking Friday? That's as good as it gets. And the other day, a bunch of them were like, man, the Republican Party just fucking blows. They're a bunch of bitches, and none of them are doing anything. And one of them specifically mentioned suing Pfizer or the government or something. And I was like, this is Marjorie Taylor Greene, who filed that lawsuit 2 weeks ago. You just didn't hear about it. And there was a lot of, really now? And all of a sudden, they're all excited with her. So,
like, finally, yes. It's like, no one respects weakness.
Exactly.
And this is something that the left has actually started to take notice of, is that on the right, you're developing a real culture of, I want a strong masculine Chad, like man to actually take the fight to the enemy. And they're figuring out that, the right is starting to really respect strength. Yeah. And and this is something that I just think this is normal for men, that we want to see the strong guy. We don't want like all these apologetic bitches. We don't.
No one does, right? No one wants to be around that person. No one wants to deal with that person.
Women don't want it either.
Exactly. And look, by the way, dear all of you guys who wonder what the hell happened to all of your friends, they started bowing to women and doing this kind of apologetic nonsense because modern women suck. And you don't have to like that, but it's true. And so they go home and they listen to their feminist girlfriend who's got triple D tits and go, you know what? I really like them titties. And they come back to you 3 weeks later and they're like, man, maybe like we shouldn't call Tina a whore anymore, as Tina is literally whoring in the front lawn. And you're like, dude, spade, call it I don't know, spade. There's a lot of feminization of culture that has gone along with this. A lot of, we taught boys to be girls in school and all this kind of crap. And it produces a bunch of this weak men crap. And everybody feels uncomfortable around it. Nobody will say anything, right? Because usually there's a woman around. But what happens to that guy when it's him and his 6 friends? There are no women around. Dude, I don't know what's going on, but you're being a bitch lately. Could you just stop that?
It's like, I actually think they're starting to turn the tables on that, though. I just see men in general turning the corner on that, where they've realized, when we let, when we cock, and we, when we become little bitches instead of our wives, this doesn't work for us. This is really not working out well for us in many ways, because one, women don't respect us. Men want respect, from their women. And that's just human nature, animal nature that we have. Like we just don't want them, to be, like ashamed of us or whatever. That just
Yeah.
that it does not feel good. And
Well,
and if you are not strong, they will not respect you. And the thing about strong women, they only respect even stronger men. And
Oh, yeah.
so and this is something that I think men are starting to figure out, is that you don't appease them. It's like you can you don't do that. That's something you never ever do.
Yeah. Well, there's a big difference between working with someone and appeasing them.
Yes.
And every guy knows this when it's another guy, right? When
Yes.
if you work in a shop full of dudes and there is just, for all of you guys out there, you've been this guy. Fucking Bob just sucks dick all day long. He just he's the kid with the apple in class and the teacher and just Jesus, dude, could your nose be any more brown? Get your face out of his ass. And the moment you start talking about a woman, all the rules go out the window. We suddenly don't know how it works anymore. We don't know what the hell's going on. It's not like your wife wants to do a thing and you're like, yeah, man, whatever, this is fine. You do your thing. Then it's, oh man, you're cucking to the wife. Like, no, right? Like I live with this person. We spend our lives together. She's going to want to do something ever, like presumably at all, and maybe that should be okay. But I don't go running home with a 36 flower bouquet screaming from the driveway about my princess and how I will worship her. What a little horseshit. Stop that.
And what you notice too is when you do that, then this is the same, and we're going to tie this back into the left. It's the same exact thing. When you do that, it just makes them even more angry. It's like, this is why you don't appease them, because they're not appeasable. You don't do it that way. And you don't do it to the left either. Whenever they get what they want, they just get angrier.
Exactly.
when they won gay marriage, they just got even more, batshit crazy, and they immediately, did a beeline for the children. And it's like, now it's like, if you don't support 5-year-olds lopping their dicks off, and going through hormone therapy, you're a bigot.
Yeah. Hey, what's funny is the right of 2014. If you would come, get in your time machine and go back and tell them, all right, in 7 years, we're going to be cutting the dicks off little boys and feeding them estrogen. The right of 2014 would have been like, really? 7
You're
years?
a conspiracy theorist.
Seriously? 7 years. Not 70, 7.
Yes.
Yeah, no, totally. It's going to be happening. And by the way, it's not just going to be happening in California. It will be happening in Texas. There will be a major court case that goes all across the nation, all about it. And that, we're going to rule in favor of the dick coming off. No one would believe you. No one.
Yeah. And it's, and I think it's stuff like this, where it's so close. It's like, oh my God, it was like we went from prediction to verification in under 7 years, and really we went on, from prediction to verification under 7 months.
Yeah,
and it was like, it was like literally the next day they're like, all right, trans rights. If you don't support, lopping dicks off 5-year-old boys, you're a bigot. It's like, well, and now that they're kind of, you have a whole bunch of like, kind of, libertarians too, who are kind of like figuring it out that, oh, we were wrong about that issue. It's like, and it really, doesn't sit well with, oh, we're always right about everything and all of our predictions come true. And actually we were like really, really bad wrong about them, predating on 5-year-olds. Oh, we were completely 100% wrong. And they don't like talking about that. They're just like, let's not talk about that.
It's not a joke, right? They pivoted as though they were always right about it, right? And look, I'm sure some 10 guys on Twitter were always right about it. Like, guys, I don't think they're going to stop with gay marriage, right? But that guy was blocked by the entirety of Liberty Twitter. He was reported for being a bigot.
His name is Jared.
Right?
And democracy.
And so, what you get is now like the Mises Caucus guys who, if there are any libertarians that are doing anything positive, it's those guys, right? But they are also running into a thing that really, I don't think they understand. I mean, they're fighting the hell out of it and good for them. But the Libertarian Party has been full of communists basically since inception.
And feds.
Well, yeah, that too, right? And so, libertarian party, they go in there and they go, guys, so like Mises said stuff about liberty, and they encounter a bunch of people who are like, have you considered the labor theory of value? And somehow that has been an ongoing conversation within the liberty movement for 50 years. Soviet Union, there's your labor theory of value. Next question. Mm-hmm. Oh, you don't like the Soviet Union? Fine. North Korea? Fine. Venezuela? Fine. I mean, the Khmer Rouge. How far do we need to go here? Just on and on and on. But nope, we're just going to argue autistically about what liberty means. And make no mistake, it's the same thing that you will at some point eventually find amongst the right. God forbid you say freedom to the more angry and motivated portion of the right. The first thing that they hear is gay pride parade in San Francisco, or what the hell is that stupid little town? Folsom, that has a street fair that is a disaster of throwing around dildos and other various sex toys, and it has been. No, Folsom.
Folsom, never heard of it, but I'm sure it's horrible. I'm sure
nobody has. It's you basically have to have lived there or found this street fair and been like, what the hell is this thing? And so it's a little tiny suburb outside of Sacramento.
Okay, that explains it.
Yeah. But that's what you get, right? And as soon as you say freedom ever, that's what people hear is, but you need to be able to have gay pride parades. Like that's not what freedom means. That's not what liberty means. Look, I understand that communists have been telling you that for nearly a century. Why would you listen to those people?
And this is like the sort of thing that you would think it would just, and you can tell like which libertarians are worth reaching out to and which ones are not based on their reaction to Hoppe. It's like, if it's like, oh, glorious Hoppe, God Emperor, he's the best, and it's like, he's like the apex of everything libertarian. I can deal with that guy, that kind of libertarian. He's the only kind I really take seriously. And, if there's anything less than, stellar, it's like, all right, I know instantly there are going to be problems.
Right.
And, but it's that attitude, because I can take Hoppe to the average conservative, the average right winger, average conservatives, and they're going to have a good reaction to him.
Yeah.
And
hey, maybe community does matter. Maybe culture does matter. Maybe families do matter. Maybe it's not whatever the hell the Libertarian Party's saying today.
Maybe libertarianism does not exist in a vacuum. It's like you can't separate it from as just a political identity. Thin libertarianism, by definition, does not work. This is anti-human to think. Is ahistorical. I mean, unfactual, unscientific, proven false repeatedly by like all of human history. That does not work. And it's not that, it's like, gee, don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. God, I can't believe no one ever thought of that before.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, really?
We figured it all out, guys. That's it.
Really? Oh my God, all by yourselves? Really? And they don't it doesn't compute to them. I don't get why that doesn't compute to them, that this thing does not work. So why would you possibly separate it out from the only things that make it work? And this is why I'm thinking like, okay, it's like, and I realized it's because like these people, they did not come from, that culture where they just instinctively understand this thing is necessary. And that's why I decided that I need to start reaching out to other people because, particularly on the right, because they instinctively understand that, okay, I need this culture stuff. I need this tradition stuff. I need this family stuff. This is all absolutely 100% necessary. I don't know why, but I know it is. And, I'd rather just take that to them and then try to, and because they've already got all of the social issues down, which seem to be like the number, that seems to be the foundation. If you're bad on all the social issues, you're bad on every issue. And if you're good on the social issues, I can reach you on the economic issues and the property rights, because then all you're missing is one thing. If you're missing, if you're good on like the property part, but you suck on like the social issues, and like you have a bad reaction to Hoppe, there's too many things wrong with your worldview that it's not worth me engaging with you anymore.
Exactly.
And so like I see someone like you just killing it And
Thank you.
and I'm just like, okay, this is someone I can talk to, and just automatically. And I'm guessing that you've probably started to have that same exact, experience, because usually I've noticed this whenever I'm feeling some way, I know I'm not the only one around it, and there are other
Yep.
other guys,
Yep.
in my peer group, they're all having the same exact reaction, and they're all like, "Yep, you're not the only one." Yep.
Yeah.
And
It's on that front, it's been a wild, well, basically since Trump lost, regardless of whatever you think of that. Trump left the White House. Let's go with that.
After the election was
I'm
fortified.
fairly certain that's a YouTube acceptable term.
After he was fortified out of office.
Correct, right? After that, a lot of people got very angry and said, okay, whatever the hell we've been doing, it ain't working anymore. And a whole lot of people, all of your personalities that were ever going to be worth a damn, came out very quickly, given the number of years that they had been calling everyone who said this nuts, came out very quickly and went, there is a communist influence here. This is a problem. It's not just, we would have agreed with you. And this was straight to the time that I found out that this was not about equality or live and let live or any of that shit. I was alive and paying at least vague attention to politics during the gay marriage thing. And the conservatives of the country all got together, plenty of them even outside of the GOP, and said, okay, I'll tell you what, how about we have civil unions? And what we're going to do is we're going to copy and paste the marriage law, and we're going to write it under this heading that says civil union. And everywhere that it says marriage, we're going to cross it out and we're going to write civil union. So you have every right? All of this law that we made, all of these things that you're talking about. Okay, fine. Look, maybe you are a horrible person that's going to hell because you're gay, but look, maybe I guess you should be able to make medical decisions for a person you live with. Okay, at least we understand. We get it. You should be able to co-sign a home, whatever weird crap you people want to do. But the general society portion, okay, fine. You can live with it. And the left came out in 5 minutes and said, no, you will give us the word marriage. And until you do, this is not over. And I went, so that's it. It's all bullshit, right?
Yeah.
It is an intense need to take over something that is standing and destroy it. And that's what it is.
Communism is a parasite.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I love the way Erickson, just says it. It's like, you don't see it out in front. You see it in the pattern of behavior. And right now, it's like, I can tell you, most of the people on the left are communists. And they don't say it. They probably don't even know it. Most of the people on the right, I mean, not on the right, on the left are communists. And it's in the pattern of behavior, not in what they actually say or what they actually believe. It's the pattern of behavior.
Well, now we're just discussing stated versus revealed preference. And boy, do people hate it when I talk revealed preference.
Take it.
Everybody hates this, right? Because, I've got some people that I've slowly actually been building things over the past couple of years. And I don't want to say I've got people that work for me, but I've definitely got people that work with me. Right. And every now and again, this comes up and to a person, every single one of them has come back to me and gone, Don, I've listened to you talk about revealed preference. And when you start to apply it to your own life, it's a really rude awakening. And it is, right. I like chocolate. You've never bought a chocolate thing in your life. You don't like chocolate. It's that simple, right? And this is a thing that nobody wants to hear. And
I like liberty, but I live in a big blue city.
Right. I live personally 40 minutes from the nearest even somewhat major city, right? Which is Amarillo, which is not a major city.
Yeah.
Right.
It's close
out in the middle of damn nowhere. So right up in the center of the Texahoma Panhandle area.
Okay. Oh, you're really far out.
Yep.
I had you on the opposite side.
Middle of fucking nowhere. Right.
Yeah.
And why do I live here? Because I walk out in my front yard every morning, and the nearest thing is something that you need, some sort of optic to reasonably see your neighbor's door. right? It's like house is over there. I know the door's in that vicinity. Can't tell. Can't see it. I do whatever the hell I want all the time. I want to go shooting. I walk out in my backyard and I shoot stuff. That's what I do, right? And I did it when I moved here expressly because I could. Because I moved from California to Texas to the actual city of Amarillo, and then I moved out here, right? And so, like, the first thing I did was like, man, I've been driving an hour to go shooting for 20 years. Fuck this. I'm shooting shit in the backyard. Right? And you know what?
Right now, I'm 10 minutes and I can't wait till it's 20. And after that, I can't wait until it's 30. I'm 40 and 50. And
exactly.
It's like I know that where I am right now is like a death trap. And and the 10 minutes is far too close. And like I'm at that point in my life where it's like, okay, I'm stable and I know where I need to go. And I've made the proper life decisions, and I can and I can move now. And it's like and so like I'm a transplant from Florida, so the Florida man, they basically the California you got to pick your poison with you want the Californian or the Florida man, take your pick.
Well, my side comes with communism, so I understand being wary of me.
Mine comes with like crazy serial killers.
True.
But
though California, like almost all of those, like Night Stalker things and all that, and it just came up again because the Golden State Killer just got put in prison. A bunch of them came from California. Weird.
And and like this is a good point, right here, where like you're talking about stated versus revealed preference. It's like you say you want liberty, but what are you actually living with? It's like the moment I see like a really urban blue state urban person libertarian, I cannot take them seriously anymore. I cannot bring myself to listen to like their podcasts because it's like you're telling me what you want and you're doing literally nothing to get it for yourself. And it's like, and not only that, you are in like the worst possible area for all of it. On every single issue, no matter what you really care about most, you're in the worst hell of it. And and you say you want to really change the system, make a difference, and then you go into like the LP, where you're like, I'm here to destroy the system, like from the
how's that going?
From the safety and security of the LP, which is very safely irrelevant. And it's like, I cannot take you seriously. And this go ahead.
That's the shtick with revealed preference, right? Because this is where it gets to pissing people off. Is like, I want liberty, right? Okay, I absolutely believe you that your stated preference in some vacuum outside of any influence that has ever existed anywhere on Earth and all of time, you would like liberty. Okay, you are now given the choice because you are on Earth of doing something, whatever it is, that promotes that liberty or not, right? And if you continuously choose not, then what you really want is whatever you're doing that is not promoting liberty. That's what revealed preference is. That's it. It doesn't get bigger, badder, more complicated, or crazier. That's what it is. Every day that you think it's a better idea to shitpost on Twitter and talk autistically about the nap instead of do literally anything else, you are demonstrating that your revealed preference is to autistically post on Twitter about the nap and not do anything else.
Yeah. And and by the way, I will accept if you tell me like I am in the process of figuring out how to move my ass out of here. It's like, sure, I will accept it. I will accept that. It's like, at least you recognized the issue. And you're at least taking some mental steps to get mental baby steps to get yourself out of like basically a kill zone.
Yeah. Well, and again, to revealed preference, right? Because if you live in California, and I can hear all the people specifically in Southern California, look, man, I work at Walmart and I pay $2,300 a month in rent, and I only make $15 an hour because that's the minimum wage in California, and basically my rent is the entirety of everything that I do. Okay, what do you eat? Just how much of whatever, how many cupcakes do you eat per month? How many times do you go to Starbucks? Do you have a new cell phone? And by the way, I asked that question as a guy with a 5-year-old cell phone, right? I already moved and I still have a 5-year-old cell phone. Mm-hmm. But if you have whatever this year's iPhone is, Your revealed preference is that you would rather have paid that $1,000 for this year's iPhone than save that money to move out of California. And that's what it is, right? And every single decision you make, everything is, it's a life full of alternatives, right? You choice A, choice B, maybe choice all the way to Z. Who knows? You probably have got a lot of them. But specifically, we're holding a dollar. Literally everything that dollar could buy is your alternatives. And so whatever you buy is your revealed preference.
Yeah. And it's like, and I can't get away from it now. Ever since I really just made that leap from they say this, and then this is like, and this was a big step for me, from like going from adolescent to adult. Is stop looking at what they said. Just fuck all of that. It makes zero difference. It's all bullshit. Like Dr. House always says, everybody lies. Especially to themselves. Yes. And I just start like, what do they do? And and I just like after I started making that distinction. It's like it's like everything. The world makes sense. There's a difference between what they say and what they actually do. And if you look at what they actually do, again, communism is in the pattern of behavior. Serfdom, likewise.
Yeah,
serfdom is in a pattern of behavior. And you can see liberty is also a pattern of behavior that is explicitly Hoppian. It's like, it's like you cannot ignore it. Like if you're maybe you're like a right-wing monarchist, there's liberty in that too. But but like when you like that sort of very right-wing character, socially very right-wing, I know automatically I'm dealing with someone who has that understanding, that and that revealed preference. Whatever the rest of their life decisions are, I know I'm dealing with someone who has a revealed preference for liberty, regardless of what they say. If they support monarchy or whatever, or they they support like maybe like right-wing authoritarianism or whatever, and they're really, really excellent on social issues, I know for a fact they have a preference for liberty. Regardless of what they say they believe in.
Very, very rarely you will find someone that doesn't apply to. And it is so statistically absurd that it is almost not worth mentioning. But I have had a few real hard run-ins with people to find out that it turns out that's not always true. Because I have always thought the same thing. And to based monarchists, who I've been calling them for years, my primary problem with you guys is there is no way from here to there, right? And none of you have one. And none of you have one that's remotely reasonable. None of you have even a vague guideline. You don't even know what direction to go. I hope
they usually admit that. They will usually admit that. Like we have no plan, no plan, and we have no way of getting there. We understand how fucked we are, and we're very black-pilled on this. And like, all right, to your credit, if you listen like Charlemagne, he will like straight up say that, like, we have no plan, there's no future in this, and there's virtually no hope long term. And I'm black-pilled on this. I'm like, all right, good enough. At least they're realistic about it. But even right there, the fact they're clear-eyed about that is very different than like these other kind of white-pilled people on the liberty side who are like, oh well, 40% still really oppose the lockdowns. I'm like, only
do
40?
they?
It's like, ooh, and again, that's stated preference. Revealed preference is substantially very different.
Yeah.
There's
a weird the people will tell you a lot, specifically who are in the more cynical right, that there's basically nothing you can do that matters. And speaking of Charlemagne is a pretty good friend of mine, so hi buddy, whenever you see this. But in that particular crowd, I've had a lot of discussions with, is there anything you can do? And the answer is often no. There's nothing in the world. But if you can get them to sit down and go, okay, so what if we start doing this, right? Then they'll, eventually go, well, despite everything I just said, and this is somewhat paraphrasing, specifically Charlemagne, there's no reason to vote. All of it's stupid. Okay, well, what if we do, what we do is we go down to a county where there's just not enough people to matter, and we move in 4,000 people, and we go elect the sheriff in every other county seat, and then we take it over and do literally whatever the fuck we want, and tell the rest of the country to go pound sand. And he goes, well, despite everything I just said about voting, I would go down and vote for that. Right? Absolutely. Because The risk assessment here is, and look, with election fortification, I don't blame people for not liking voting, right? But work with what you got. But the flip side of that is 40% oppose the lockdowns, right? So yeah, and I never did any of the mask crap. Luckily for me, right? It wasn't some massive heroic move. When all the lockdown stuff happened, the Amarillo Police Department and the sheriff in the county both held press conferences that said, we're not doing any of that. Maybe if you're not wearing a mask and you're killing someone, we'll tack on the mask thing. But look, we're busy. We have police things to do. You will get no videos of Amarillo PD pulling people out of stores or any other crap. Like if you get trespassed, we'll tell you to leave, but we're not issuing you a mask ticket. It's not going to happen.
Heck, even in Harris County, the Harris County sheriff told a judge to go pound sand. Like, I'm not enforcing your court order. And, and like, if just in a blue area, blue county of a right wing state, the sheriff is like, nope. Not doing it. No. It's like that judge can enforce that law herself, and she's like 4'8". So it's like not gonna happen. And just like that, I have a preference for that.
But the shtick of this is because I didn't wear masks, right? And apparently, I have resting serial killer face, which is conveniently a little bit, hidden by the shades these days. But when I stop paying attention to people, apparently I just look mean and angry, and I have, this big giant beard. And so people just get out of my way. Bothers the hell out of my wife because they don't do it for her because she doesn't look like a big angry person. But I walked into a store a few weeks into the lockdowns, right? And, the town's not enforcing a lockdown, but everybody's wearing masks anyway. And I'm just standing in line, and the lady in front of me turns around. She looks at me. She looks down at her mask. She takes it off and goes, this really is getting ridiculous, isn't it? I went, yeah. And that was it. And a few feet behind her was somebody who went, you know what? They're right. That's all it took. I didn't do anything. I went to the store.
And it's like I can't understand when you see like a person like this in a like a red area, and you don't automatically think this is someone I need to be working with. And you see that, these people overwhelmingly, they have a preference for liberty, and it's not what they say. It's not what they say they believe. It's what they actually do. It's like their revealed preferences. The revealed preference of the right is always for liberty. No matter what they say they support, it is always a revealed preference for liberty. And the fact that you would say, I don't want to work with people like that, or, maybe I'll have a separate coalition or something like that, which is like meaningless.
Yeah.
Like absolutely meaningless.
The economics thing kills me, right? Because the right as a whole is the group of people that will tell you every day of the week, my home is my castle. And you think those people don't understand property rights?
Yeah.
Seriously?
And they'll tell you it's like I have castle doctrine on my property, and I can shoot you in the back if you try to rob me.
Right.
And they are like right wing courts have upheld this in right wing states, and at the same time they get called like gun grabbers or whatever. I'm like, are you insane? It's like look at their revealed preferences, and I think that this is one of those major distinctions between someone who's really worth listening to, and because right wingers, they understand this instinctively. Like it was like Dennis Prager of all people who pointed this out to me. For the first time was, the right really cares about what people do, and that, does it do good? And the left really cares about, does it feel good? And of course it feels good to say all the right things and to recite the libertarian, Nicene Creed. It's like the profession of faith, and I mean, it really is Christianity without Christ, not to digress, but I love it. I love it when Erickson makes that point because it's so good. But anyway, it's like you see that these people have such a real preference for liberty when it comes down to it. That's what they will choose, and like overwhelmingly.
Well, and the other problem, and this is probably the biggest problem that everybody has with the Republican Party. I think Dan Crenshaw is garbage, right? Absolutely. Sun up to sundown, every day of the week. The man is full of bad takes. He wants to do horrible things, but he's a Republican, right? And therefore, all Republicans are Dan Crenshaw. And it turns out very few Republicans are Dan Crenshaw. And if you exclude the original Dan Crenshaw, none of them are. Oh, but Don, there's also Mitch McConnell. Okay. Mitch McConnell and Dan Crenshaw are indeed crap. Okay, I'm with you. Fine. There's nobody else. No one you can work with at all, ever.
Yeah,
And the answer
Marjorie
is
Taylor
not
Greene
really.
comes out with a thread, and your first instinct is to slap the olive branch away.
And there's always some reason. There's always some justification. There's always some excuse, right? And again, think whatever you want of the lady, and her policy positions, etc. Right? She's doing more than basically everybody else at this point.
And by the way, if for all of the people you say you hate, like those Mitch McConnells and those Dan Crenshaws or whatever, who does it look like they fear and hate more? You, your guys, or Marjorie Taylor Greene? Their revealed preference should tell you everything. The revealed preference of your stated enemies is damning to you. That they are not scared of the LP at all. I mean, it's like this is not on their radar. They never talk about it. They never think about it. The idea that you're going to be like taking over even if the CIA has controlled it for decades, it's like even the CIA doesn't really seem to care about this, and they're kind of happy to just let you take it.
Well, what really kills me is that the Liberty guys are indeed right, as basically everyone has pointed out by this point, but they are correct when they say a lot of the problem is mud duopoly and people who just vote Republican to vote Republican or just vote Democrat to vote Democrat. And that's all well and good. That's true. It would be useful and helpful if people paid enough attention to politics to make informed decisions down to an individual policy level and who supports what and make reasonable trade-offs. None of that is ever going to happen. Ever. Right? So the first thing you do when you say, hey, I am going to run under the Libertarian Party ticket is go, all of those people that I just said are roughly half the country, none of them will ever vote for me. Ever.
And they're going to tune you out immediately. Because instinctively they understand that democracy is perpetual civil war. And you are joining not just the opposing team. The opposing team that's really, really pathetic and small.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what you're doing when you're in a third party. It's like you understand instinctively this is civil war and you don't want to be on the really, really, really small team that's just going to get obliterated. Nobody wants that. And nobody wants to listen to that. Nobody cares what losers think. Why?
Exactly.
Because they can't protect you in the fucking civil war.
Exactly. Right. No one wants, look, it is crazy to me that I can't get this through to the military portion of Liberty Twitter, right? Like all of you guys had this guy that sucked. All of you had one of them. It was just didn't matter what he did. He didn't do it well. Even if he was trying hard, you knew you couldn't depend on the guy. Why? Because there's just enough of that in the military for all of us to have met one. And yet you want to be that guy. You want to be that guy, but with really cool rhetoric. What good does that do? If the guy who can't manage to get his weapon pointed in the correct direction is like, bro, the non-aggression principle. Do you suddenly want him on the team with you? Do you suddenly want him being the guy that's carrying a rifle next to you? No, you don't. You're like, yeah, look, that's great, bro, but could you be somewhere else so you don't point that thing at me by chance?
And I had a similar take to where with the Kyle Rittenhouse thing where I was like, oh my god, if you think the left is mad about Rittenhouse getting off right now, wait till they find out that the non-aggression principle allows you to defend yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh man.
It's like
So
they don't care.
no,
They really don't care at all.
I hear them quaking in their boots right now.
It's just like it gets to the heart of it. It's like you can always tell, from from your allies and from your enemies, who do they fear and why. And it's from their revealed preferences, and that should tell you everything. And it's like, and even just like who they even talk about should tell you everything. And it's like, and the fact is, they fear the people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and Matt Gaetz far more. It's like that. Like the LP is not on their radar. They never talk about it. It's like
no,
and this
by the way,
should be damning.
That should be particularly insulting, right?
Yeah.
Because the Libertarian Party has been around ish 50 years at this point, right? It has, I'll be generous and say, done some things in New Hampshire. Ish.
Not really.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is a House representative that is one of the most junior House representatives in the entire House. She's been there for less time than the dump you took last month. She is nothing, nobody, no rule says she should be important for any variety of any reason anyone has ever documented. But guess what? She's out there publishing dirty secrets. She's pissing people off. She's getting all kinds of things done. Now, I know. She didn't repeal the NFA just yet. But can we take a little win and build on that little win?
Mm-hmm. It's like if your goal is to really destroy and undermine the system, then you should see some results from that. That you should see the system wanting to do something to you, and if they're not taking any action against you, it's like that should be really telling. Like they don't fear you. That
right.
Like this is the most damning critique I could make of the LP. Is the system does not fear you, and that should tell you everything. And 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 this is why when I'm with like the GOP Mises Caucus, I'm the founder of it. I am always saying, like, I don't want to fight them. If I try to fight them, they're going to kill me. They're going to destroy me, and I absolutely don't want to fight them. And I'm preaching peace with them at every single turn. That we're going to have win-wins and more power for more liberty, because this is actually possible. And but under the archotropism framework, which they should really look into, because let's face it, if Austrian economics was full and complete, why did Keynesianism win? Seriously, and this is the answer the archotropism framework will provide them, is why that happened. And so when I'm out here, I'm going to say, okay, I know for that we can have win-win situations where I trade them more power and I get more liberty in return. Just like kind of with like drug legalization. That was what happened. Was they had drug legalization was traded for marijuana. Recreational marijuana was traded for a 35% tax hike in order to fix a 25% a year budget deficit in Colorado. Ditto Detroit. Ditto California, ditto Oregon, Washington, Illinois, all these blue states, that had terrible budget problems were all the ones that, made the, recreational weed legal, because this was a trade. They traded some of your liberty back for more power that they valued more. And, and they've shown for 600 years, the government for 600 years has shown that repeatedly, that they will always make trades like that. And so, and this way, and when I'm going out and preaching stuff like that, I know that they're not going to come after me, because I'm out here saying, let's make a trade, and they're like, all right, what do you got to trade? And maybe they won't like it, maybe I'll have to raise the price, but everyone has a price.
Oh man, and specifically when you're dealing with the government power brokers, right?
Yeah,
I mean, but this goes to another thing that I say all the time that nobody likes, right? Which is, if I could elect Mitt Romney tomorrow, 100% my decision, I would do it as long as he dethroned Nancy Pelosi. No questions asked, instantly. Well, but, and this is where the puritanical nature gets involved, right? Because it's the same mentality, is that, look, okay, fine, you get to tax weed a little, but you let it go, right? We're done with that subject, right? Is Nancy Pelosi is dangerous. She can wield power. She does regularly. Maybe not as effectively as the most powerful power broker that's ever existed, but she does wield it effectively. And Mitt Romney's an idiot. At bare minimum, we have gone from dangerous opponent to moron. And you know what? I like that idea. I'd rather have the people who want to come crush me, destroy everything that has ever existed that I have liked, be incompetent douchebags than functional, worthwhile power brokers. And people don't like it, right? But we should elect, Ron Paul 2.0. Okay, you're never going to get that person elected in Nancy Pelosi's seat. It's not going to happen. Now, don't get me wrong. It's going to be hard as hell to get Mitt Romney in there, but it might actually happen. You might get some weak, basic bitch Republican who's basically a 90s Democrat who just sucks. And that would be good enough.
Well, it's like, and they can't distinguish between someone who truly intends consciously malevolent evil and someone who's just kind of adult.
Yeah.
And the, and that I do think, Mitt Romney, there's probably a little bit more than a little bit of malice there, but mostly I think it's just, he's adult. He's an idiot. He's a useful idiot. And, I can take I will always take stupid, incompetent evil over, competent and very
crushing you evil.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like these, it's like with Nancy Pelosi, I did that's a real power broker right there who knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
And she knows how to do it. Yeah. Whereas like the, whereas like with, maybe like a 2010s Republican, when they're doing something like, I don't know, maybe drug, they want to keep drugs, nice and criminalized or something like that. I just assume they don't quite understand what they're doing. And usually if you can, give them a better solution, like what I usually call Obamacare for drug dealers, if you like your drug dealer, you can keep him. It's a lie. But, because, you use socialism to go after the drug dealers instead of prohibition. And, socialism has a proven track record of death and destruction every single time it's been tried. Whereas prohibition always makes the problem worse. And right wingers, they instinctively understand that and it computes instantly. And they're like, oh, that's actually a really good idea. It's like, it's not just like that you've won the argument with me. It's like, oh, that actually does sound like a much better idea. Why has no one thought of this before? Why did no one bring this to me?
You're a little bit devious and you're going after these people, because it turns out that DARE program didn't work. This war on drugs thing is not really going well. And no one thinks that it is, right?
And I just assume that they're usually ignorant. And I can correct, and ignorance can be corrected with education. Stupid is forever. And like evil, but worse, evil is also forever. And it's like there's no correcting the left. They're evil, and this is something I've noticed about like the left and the right. The left thinks the right is evil, and the right thinks the left is misguided. In reality, they're both projecting themselves onto the other. Where the left is evil and the right is misguided.
Exactly.
And that should tell you automatically who you should be reaching out to with education and better policies. And and so this is the something I fundamentally cannot get if this is why, again, I keep saying I'm reaching out to the right now. It's like I'm pivoting away from Liberty Twitter, and I'm going to going to be going hard on MAGA Twitter, because those people are reachable. Those people that can be reached, they have a revealed preference for liberty, and the people with the stated preference for liberty have a revealed preference for serfdom.
Yeah, and it's you'll get. Let me spoiler alert for you. There is, and I mean this in a purely definitional sense, there is a strain of the right now that has, and they generally hang out and call themselves MAGA guys, but they really do want fascism. Yeah, and okay. I hate that these people are proving Antifa right about literally anything ever, because it's Antifa and they're the worst people on earth. But it is really, it is really becoming somewhat popular, right, amongst a specific portion of the right, and they're running around in. I understand how they got there, right? Well, the left took over all these institutions, and then they made these gay, stupid things with the cutting off kids' dicks. So if we had the institutions, we could stop it. And facially, that sort of makes sense. It just doesn't actually work that way.
Yeah, it's like not with fascism. That's not going to go well. That's not the way. It's like what we have right now is fascism.
Pretty fashy.
That's how we got here. And so let's not go hardcore or more into that. When I hear people that are talking like that, I immediately think Fed. If you're a Fed and you know it, march your feet. And
it's getting popular too.
I know. And it's like I see these marches, I'm like, that's a Fed, and Antifa is not attacking them. Like, that's a Fed. And it's, and so it's like, so those people are not reachable. I'm not going to bother with them. They're getting the block button. And, God bless Michael Malice for, giving us the template and the behavioral model to follow. Just block anyone who's a retard. Yeah, and by the way, today's been wonderful. I've gotten a solid 30, 20 good blocks. Just out of today. Just a few tweets, like a good 20, and these were like absolute law birds, and they will reveal themselves to you. They have a revealed preference for serfdom. And so I want to thank you for we're about an hour 30, dude. This has been great.
I just noticed that too.
It's like, I don't know how long you usually go for, but like this is like flown by. Yeah, and it's like I wanted to say I can't wait to talk to you again. We are about to schedule an appearance for me on your show, and I can't wait to say hi to the rest of your audience. If they're as based as you, I can't wait.
You will find lots of angry right-wing discussion in chat, but there's a lot of through lines.
Their revealed preference is exactly what I'm seeking.
Exactly.
But hey, where can people find you?
So I am on YouTube. The channel is Pleb Media. I am on DLive still, I think. Channel is Pleb Media. I generally, if you want to be in chat and actually talk to me and have me pay attention to you at all, you will move over to Entropy, because it is by far the way to go if you want to not get horrifically censored and just beaten to death by all of the various censorious horrors of the world. The Twitter account is at Helo Procurement. There's a Getter. There's a ton of stuff. I'm over on Gab at 2_plebs, because that used to be the name of the show. And I think Getter is Pleb Media as well, but I'm horrific at branding.
All right. Well, hey, Don, it's been such a pleasure. If everyone that knows where they can find me at Popular Liberty _. I've been tearing it up lately. If you want to support this show, again, there's Paloma Verde CBD, promo code popular, to get this awesome CBD salve to help you with your health and your dry fasting. If you want to take that up, a lot of my listeners do. And if you would like to help the show directly, subscribestar.com/popular liberty. We have conversations like this in my supporting listeners group every single day. And Don, it's been such a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, man. It has been good.
All right. Take care, y'all.